just wasn't in that right frame of mind for me, and physically wasn't there. And it was not the toughest decision I've ever made. It was the saddest decision I've ever made.
Glenn Hoddle, thank you very much for taking the time.
Absolute pleasure, Mikael.
To come on the podcast. For the people who are going to be our audience, everybody knows you. Yeah, they should. If they don't, they're not real footballers, right? I would like you to introduce yourself quickly.
Glenn Hoddle, who has loved football ever since I was a child, a baby, and just played football all my life. Kicked the ball wherever I could. No school, didn't want to go to school. Just played football, in the house, out of the house. And eventually signed professional at Tottenham and played most of my career at Tottenham, which was the team I supported. When I was 8, I supported Tottenham. So to play for your club and to play for my country and playing World Cups and Euros, and great experience. But it's like you, Mikael. As a kid, most kids dream about playing football. That's their number one. Normally, maybe a fireman or when they're a bit older, but they love to play football. And we were just lucky. I'm just grateful that I had a gift and I made it.
What was your upbringing like? Because you said football was all I had. And
you know what? I had no choice. I think football chose me. It was in my DNA. Mum and Dad said when I was 1-2 years of age, I was kicking a ball, and before I walked, I would tap it with my feet, not with my hands. Obviously, I didn't know that, but my dad was a good footballer. He played for apprentice at Brentford, didn't make it, but played top amateur football. But you know what? He was so supportive. He never once as a kid tried to coach me or teach me anything. He was just there for me.
Supporting.
He played hours and hours in the park with me, and I played in the garden, and he was just there with me playing. So it was just football crazy. I was just mad about football. I was in the garden, I was in the park, I was in the garages, and then when Mum said come in, I'd have a sponge ball and I'd be in my bedroom. Bicycle kicks in the bed, my mum would go berserk. So it was football. I went to school when I was a little bit older, and I could walk to school, and I had a ball, and I would keep the ball up with my satchel along the path, and if I dropped it, I'd put a little chalk mark.
No way.
And I had to beat that the next day. And on the way back, I had a chalk mark on the other side of the road. And when I dropped it, I got to beat it. And it took me about a year to get to school with not dropping it. So I was absolutely football crazy.
So what's your pathway to arrive at and play at 17? What's before at, let's say, 12?
Well,
are you joining an academy? Are you joining a...
Well, Mikael, back
system?
then, it wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
You could only sign somebody on schoolboy forms at 14, maybe 15, and then apprenticeship if you sign apprentice for the club. There was me and this other guy that I got picked up from Tottenham when I was 11 and a half. I thought I was going, and then the scouts come to my house. And then eventually I heard nothing for 6 months, so I was like distraught. I heard nothing from Tottenham. The scouts had said they want to bring me down. They'd forgotten me. And I go to play in a final, the under-12s. Martin Chivers, who was a massive Tottenham player, played for England, big centre forward, came to do the trophies. And I had a wonderful game. And he went back and said to Tottenham, you've got to see this little boy. And they went, Hoddle, we've heard this name, because it's an unusual name, Hoddle. We've heard, hang on. And then they contacted me. And then I went to train with them, playing a match. And then I used to train from really sort of 12 to when I was 15. Every Tuesday and Thursday night, I would get on a train from Harlow. It was about 45 minutes on a train. I'd run from school to catch it, 10 past 4, I remember. 10 past 4, I had to get there. And I'd run, and if I missed the train, I missed training. But I would travel all the way, all on my own at 12. And the sights I saw, my dad would pick me up at 10 o'clock at night every Tuesday and Thursday. Wouldn't miss it. For 4 years, bang, 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 I was there, playing the gym, and then I get the train home, all on my own.
And at school, you would also play football?
in the playground.
So every day.
Every day. Played for the team, for the district, for the county, for, One day, one week, I played 8 matches in 7 days in 1 week. 2 games in 1 day, and I played every day in matches. I was mad. Crazy.
Never tired. You were tall already as a kid?
I had a bit of a spurt when I was maybe 14. I was very small. First of all, when they played me out on the wing because I was little. And they were 15. They were all 15-year-olds. And I was only 12. So they pushed me out. I didn't realise then that when I played for England international, they'd do the same. They played me out on the wing.
Yeah.
And also I played with my dad, I've forgotten that, which was wonderful. I look back in my career, I had 1 year playing with my father.
What do you mean play with your dad?
Well, my dad was still playing. He had one season left in a Saturday league. I was 14.
Right, and he was?
14 and a half, and I'd outgrown junior football. It wasn't doing me any good, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit too easy, and I was getting in bad habits. My dad said to me, come on, you're going into the men's league, which was fantastic. I played with my father against men, and that made me grow up very quickly. I can tell you that. And it was great because I got the chance to call my dad Del. His name was Derek. I was, Del, give me the ball, give me the ball. That was wonderful having that year with my dad. And bless him, he's not with us now. But yeah, I look back on my career, and I always patch that on. That's a big part of my career, playing 1 year with my father.
Of course.
Yeah, it was
amazing.
Lovely.
And you were straight away striker?
No, midfield. I was midfield. Always been a midfield player.
10.
A number 10. Well, unfortunately, Mikael, back then we didn't have number 10s. That position wasn't available.
Because you played always 4-4-2, so
4-4-2.
You had to compromise.
In the centre of 2 or out on the right. Yeah,
so you had to defend?
Everyone has to defend.
But when you're a kid, sometimes you're like,
oh yeah,
I'm just interested in having the ball and dribbling. And
No, I understand what you're saying, actually. It's a good question because a lot of kids, and that's the reason why perhaps they don't make it.
Mm-hmm.
They've got lots of talent, but they won't put the hard graft in. I understood the game.
Early on.
Being in that, I don't like to sound big-headed. I'm just being honest with you. From when I was 3, 4, 5, I had 2 feet, left and right foot. I could do both, keep the ball up. I was naturally a footballer. I played natural football, just played. I had an understanding of where you had to be on the pitch.
Yeah, because a lot of gifted players that age, even a bit older, when they reach teenage, if they are super gifted, they don't tend to continue and work hard.
They don't work hard, and they don't understand. I call them playground players. When you play in the playground at school, there's no shape to the game.
Right.
Everyone's just doing their tricks and they're playing, and there's no shape. I understood at a very young age. If a coach told me something and I thought, yeah, that sounds where to be defensively, where to be when we had the ball to try and support the striker or to support the player to get the ball. It was always get the ball. I always wanted the ball as a young kid. Even when I go to Monaco, Arsene would say, my first bit of French was, I said to him, Arsene, tell me, what is give me the ball? And it was passez-moi le ballon. I'll never forget, that was my first bit of French, and that's the bit I wanted because I wanted the ball. I was the same when I was a kid.
So early on, you were already very analytic. Yeah, you could understand the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you were curious, and compared to the other kids, to play at 17 already for Spurs, you had to cover a lot of ground to be ready mentally, physically, tactically.
They have to see something. Looking back now, obviously you do what's natural to you and you do what you do. But looking back, coaches, that's what, as a coach, I would do with youngsters as well. You don't realise they have to see whether you understand the game. It's not just talent, as we always say.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They have to have the understanding. If you're going to put somebody in very young, if he hasn't got the understanding, it could crucify him. I've seen players play it for Tottenham that were too young and they never played again. Mentally, it destroyed them because they couldn't cope. But it's a delicate one. But they saw something in me at 17, and I went on, and in my first game I scored a 30-yarder, boom, and that was it. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And just to allude, that game at Stoke away, I made my debut coming on at Tottenham at home, but my first full debut was away at Stoke, and I hit this wonderful goal, 30 yards, boom. And Martin Chivers, who had seen me when I was 12, was playing. He was in the team.
At Stoke.
For Tottenham still.
For Tottenham.
It was amazing. I look back at that and I've got Martin Chivers jumping on me because I'd scored. It was manic. So it just shows you in football, he must have felt really old actually when I think about it. But it was wonderful just to have that moment personally. But for Martin, who helped me to get to Tottenham as a kid, I'm playing with him. It was a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Now we're gonna move on to big chapter of your life, team that I never spoke about, playing for Arsenal. Tottenham Hotspurs.
Oh yeah, big rivalry.
Just a few quick questions, because I know you've had a lot of interviews about your time at the club. The best teammate?
Do you mean just as a mate or on the pitch? Or
on the pitch, the one you had the best connection with.
The most respected would have been our captain.
No, but the one you were interacting with and you didn't even have to speak to him.
No, Ozzy Hoddle.
All right.
Osvaldo, when he come.
Yeah.
It was, Ozzy and Ricky were on a similar wavelength for language. That we couldn't speak to each other, but the language was the same. I had a lot of respect for Steve Perriman. He was a wonderful captain and he saw me as a kid. He was a kid coming through Tottenham and he helped me with a lot of things, little things that he said, and his communication on the pitch was brilliant. But a connection as a footballer, me and Ozzy, and Ricky as well, to be honest. It was lovely. We just understood each other. We just understood each other. It was quite weird, really. Lovely for me because, and I don't mean this disparaging or disrespectful, we'd had a tough time in the 70s. When I got into the team, it wasn't.
The team was
relegated. It was a tough time, and the squad wasn't that talented.
Yeah.
And particularly in midfield, it was like we were playing very loose football, nothing. Suddenly, these two guys come, and I'd play a 1-2, and the ball was back there, and I'd play another 1-2, and we'd play double 1-2s back, and the ball was back. Whereas before, it wouldn't happen. And it was lovely. I remember going home to my dad after we started playing the first pre-season, and I said, wow, we've got some chemistry here. We've got someone to play with on the same wavelength. It was really exciting. It really was. And we ended up playing, 10 years together.
10 years.
Amazing, really, when I think about it. Nearly 10 years.
Your best memory as a player?
Oh, this is hard. I think it's got to be walking up the stairs, picking the FA Cup up in 81. Because I'd supported Tottenham since I was 8, and I'd watched all the cup finals, which were massive back in the day. They really were big. They were bigger than winning the league, and there was only one live game. It was the FA Cup final. To walk up them stairs eventually,
at Wembley,
to hold that cup up,
yeah,
was special.
Special. But we say it's not so much the moment when you lift the trophy; it's also the journey to get there.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was a journey and a half, because there was times, you dream as a kid, you wanted to win the FA Cup. In England particularly, it was like the big one. And I just wondered, one, would you become a footballer if you're lucky enough? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And two, would you ever win the chance to win the FA Cup? So when you go for the late 70s, we get knocked out in the quarterfinal. We get knocked out against Cardiff one year in the third round, and the pitch was horrible and the crowd, and we lose 1-0. And I'm thinking as a young man, I wanted so much, to win the FA Cup and play in the cup final. The cup final was a special day. So the journey was not just the journey through the rounds getting there, but it was this journey as a kid watching it, as a playing and getting knocked out and not getting to the final, the frustration. And then suddenly we were there, and then suddenly the whistle goes and we're walking up the stairs picking that trophy up. And you're absolutely right, Mikael, it's the journey towards that. And that, in some ways, is more important than actually lifting the trophy. Yes, lifting the trophy is a wonderful day and it's the thing that you've been trying to do, but it's remembering the experience of the journey is far more important.
Your best memory as a coach, a manager for Spurs?
For Spurs? For Tottenham was difficult. You know what, Mikael? It was my club. I went back. I was doing very well at Southampton. We were 6th in the league. We were really doing, and suddenly they get the phone call to go to my club. It should have been my happiest time,
right,
as a coach.
Yeah,
I've got to say, unfortunately, it was the most unhappiest time. There was too much politics there. The finances weren't there that was told, and it was so. I wanted. You can imagine. When there's an old saying, you can want something so much all you do is experience the wanting, because that's how much you.
Yeah.
So the pressure, not on my internal pressure, was bigger than all the other clubs. I worked morning, day and night, of course, but this was just a little bit special. My club. Could I bring success to Tottenham? You know, the great Bill Nicholson, who was a great manager at Tottenham, and then I'd experienced it as a player. So that little bit of extra pressure was on myself, within myself. But it was the most toughest time I've ever had to manage. The politics wasn't right. There was not things happening correctly. The money wasn't there that was there. Said it was going to be there. I had to get free transfers rather than buying players that I wanted to get. So it was very, very frustrating. I couldn't build what I built very, very quickly at Chelsea. I couldn't do that. And at Tottenham, we had better players than when I went to Chelsea. It was so frustrating, very frustrating. Yeah, it was sad, really, in many ways, that I got sacked there. Daniel Levy did what he had to do. It was like managing with one arm behind your back.
Were you the manager for that 5-3-3-5? Yeah?
Man United?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm sorry to bring that up.
Well, you know what? This is...
Sorry,
No,
we've got to talk about that
absolutely.
game.
Why not? This was interesting because...
You're going to talk about your experience. I'm going to talk about mine.
Yeah, it was a bit surreal, that first half. I sit upstairs first half, normally, so I'm sitting upstairs.
Okay.
And we came out the traps, I remember. So sharp. I think Dean Richards was making his debut. I bought Dean Richards, big centre-back.
Okay. Yes.
From Southampton, I brought with him, which was a big problem, really, because I'd gone from Southampton to, oh dear, that's another story. Yeah. But Dino was making his, bless him, he's not with us now, making his debut, and he scores from a corner, boom. And then I can't remember who else, I think Les scored. We go 3-0 up, and we're playing fantastic. Just in my heart, I'm thinking, this is how I want the team to play. And so we go 3-0 up, we come in at half time. It's difficult. Sometimes that's a difficult thing for a manager. You're 3-0 up, playing against a very, very good side, a top side, Manchester United.
I'm on the bench.
I know.
First half.
Were you on the bench, were you?
At first half.
In the first half, yeah. So it's your fault then that we lost.
Second half, I'm on.
Well, there you go. You made the big difference. What we said is, I remember saying that the last thing we said was...
I assisted one. Yeah.
Probably the one I think I know, yeah. Was it the first one? And we say don't concede. First 10, 12 minutes, let's just get through, don't concede, and we'll win the game. And I'm thinking they're good enough. I've seen them do it before many times. If they score early, it's still, we got game on here. And Andy Cole, I think, scored within a minute or so of the second half. And then it just, there was certain... And then, to be fair, you stepped up, you took chances, you threw more people forward, and we were trying to cope with it. And I'm thinking, we've got to if we get another goal, it kills it. You had the momentum. So I was not thinking, really, let's just defend, because we were like a boxer being boom. Like we were in the first half, we hit you with boom, and it was like you were shocked. We now had to find a way of and I thought, let's get a goal. So I wanted us to, I think my substitutions were to get that goal. And then as soon as it went to 3-3, it was like, no.
This is not all day.
As much as you were trying to fight it, and you know that this red tide kept coming back at us. Talk about two halves, the game of two halves, quite incredible. On the Richter scale, so different. We were 10 out of 10. Second half, you were 10 out of 10, and bang. And you took every chance that you got, and a lot of credit has to go to you guys, because 3-0. Listen, this happens in football. It really does. I mean, I've been on the other side. I was in a team at Swindon when I was manager. We were 4-1 down with 20 minutes to go, and we won 6-4. Now, Mikael, don't tell me how we did it. It just happened. And sometimes on the positive and the negative, you reflect and you think, how did that happen?
Oh my God! Yeah, that game was crazy.
It was crazy. Yeah. And you came on second half.
You came on, yeah.
You were the difference.
I was
Mikael,
involved.
you were the difference. Obviously, you were 3-0 down when you come on.
I was bombing on the left side.
Well, that's what I think you had. You just threw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Which teams do? I did that when we come back. It was like leave two at the back. You deal with whatever they throw. Everyone go forward. And it's not rocket science sometimes, but it works sometimes. Yeah. Or you get caught on the break. if we get the fourth goal, I think that would have sealed it. You know, it was a hell of a comeback, from United. It really was.
And for you personally, your relationship with the club right now, how is it going? Are you involved?
With Tottenham?
Yeah.
It's always been very, very good. I mean, I go back there quite a lot. They ask me to go back as guests, and I do little things here and there. Obviously, I'm working in television, so a lot of the guys are ambassadors for the club, and they go back every home game and do a lot of work for them. But I do some, but I haven't, not classed as an ambassador. But Daniel Levy, who sacked me, we get on. We're okay. We're fine. And Tracy, his wife, we go at the end of the season and the beginning of the season. Well, I think it was a City game. I went there as a guest and in the chairman's suite. So everything's fine. You know, it's great. It's great. I would love, if I'm honest, people say, would you go back into football and all these things? And you say, well, you never say never in football. I'm only 66 compared to, it's not old, is it? I would love to mentor young players, particularly at Tottenham. It might be in my club as such. I would love to mentor. I know the journey that they're going to have to take on and off the pitch. And I think there is that would really give me a lot of pleasure to do that. For one, I don't know really, a couple of reasons. I don't know why that hasn't happened. It nearly did. And the communication's gone a little bit AWOL, but I was hoping that was going to happen, and it hasn't. So anyway, I move on. I've got other business things that I'm involved in now, and 5 grandchildren, so
keeps you busy.
Keeps me busy, yeah.
So one of the players you've coached, managed, Paul Gascoigne, what a player he was.
Yeah, fantastic player. He was.
What was?
I didn't get him at his really peak. Actually, he played in all my. Listen, the reason I didn't take him, he played in all my qualifying when he was fit. When I took him every game, he played in the qualifying stages. He was great, and he played we played a little system, 3 at the back, wing backs, and we played 2 little inside forwards, and then 2 behind, with 1 up the top. Sometimes 2 up the top, but certain games we'd play with Gazza just behind the front, or in the 2 of them in 2 little pockets. It was perfect for that. So he played, but he had real problems. He was at Middlesbrough at the time. He had problems with a knee and a calf, and he was not fit. He wasn't playing for Middlesbrough. A lot of times I wanted to see him play and thinking he's not fit again, but we needed to get him in the team, so he played in the qualifiers. Had to take him off on a couple of occasions. But I really wanted him fit, Mikael, for the World Cup. We'd qualified, we'd gone to Rome, got the point that we needed in Italy. And it was like, I remember sitting him down saying, Gazza, you've got to get fit. I want you to get... And the problem was, when you're an England manager, it's like you're only leasing the car. That you don't own the car.
No.
You're only leasing the car.
Yeah.
They go back.
Yeah.
So you cannot, if you want your car nice and clean, then it's in your hands. You'd clean it and you make sure everything's right.
There wasn't much conversation and dialogue with the managers at clubs. Like at Middlesbrough, you couldn't not interfere, but
I knew Brian Robson was the manager, and Viv Anderson, and we spoke a lot.
Of course, okay.
But Gazza at the time was in a house with Paul Merson up there, so Paul and Gazza were living together.
Okay, say no more.
So, and Paul had his ghosts and his
right.
But I had no control over that. And I said to Gazza, I remember saying to him, you must be fit for 6 months or 4 months. We'd qualified in the October bomb. You got another World Cup here, got to be fit. He had a knee and a calf problem. And he came and he wasn't in the best shape. And I tried to give him, we had Morocco we played. It was the last game before I had to pick the squad. And I left him because he wasn't ready. We played France, Belgium. I said, let's give him another 3-4 days. And I said to Gazza, just get through the game. Just get through the game. Unfortunately, he got cropped. You can still see it now, my visual. Big number 6 just comes across and takes him out. So he has to come off. He's got a hematoma. He's got a knee and a calf. And I'm like...
That's him.
And I think, for the sake of the squad and Gazza not being fit for maybe over 3 weeks, it was, oh dear, I want him so much, but he's not going to be fit. If we do go all the way, he won't be ready till semis. Gazza without playing in the camp, you have to take that into consideration as well. Yeah. And in the end, the press didn't want to hear that. They wanted to make a sensation when I knew that was going to happen because the truth sort of ruins a good story, doesn't it? I said, look, he's injured, he's not. And also, he had all sorts of demons going on bless him, in his head and whatever, and in his life. So he just wasn't in that right frame of mind for me, and physically wasn't there. And it was not the toughest decision I've ever made. It was the saddest decision I've ever made. The toughest decision is easy. When I first become manager at Swindon, and you have to an 18-year-old in the eye and say, many of them say, we're not signing you on. We're not giving you a contract. And they break down in your office. That was tough. That was really tough.
100%.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to Monaco, which is not La France because it's Monaco, right? You've got Mark Hatley, George Weah, Arsene Wenger.
Yeah, Arsene.
What a good group of players.
Amoros is a good player. Love Amoros, yeah. No, it was just, again, I knew I needed to go from Tottenham. I'd been there since I was 11. I think I was 27. And I said, I'm leaving. I knew I was leaving. I was going to Paris Saint-Germain. I know. I heard. I was going to Paris. I'd looked at schools for the kids. I looked at where we were going to live. And for some reason, the two clubs couldn't make.
You too? You didn't want to play with David Ginola? No, I'm kidding.
So, I had my heart set on going to Paris. I needed to move abroad. I wanted to challenge as a player and a person. Two things, because we're only a player when you train and you play, but you're a person. So I wanted to challenge the new culture. And I knew the football in Italy, Spain, France, wherever, it would suit me more than England.
You knew about Liga? I mean, Liga?
Yeah, back then.
One?
Yeah. Paris and Marseille were a big side. Bordeaux were a big side.
So all the European side, basically.
Yeah, European side.
Yeah.
So it was go and express and go and play abroad. Where I wanted to go. I nearly went to Germany when I was younger. Nearly went to Napoli, actually, in 82, which was a story and a half. Anyway, I'm going to Paris, but the clubs couldn't make an agreement with the fee. 3 weeks went by, and I'm saying to my agent, what's going on, And then he had just put Mark Hatley into Monaco. Arsene had just gone to Monaco as manager. Yeah. And so he picks me up, and I literally think I'm going to Paris, to fly to Paris to finalise the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why are you picking me up too early? He says, we're flying to Nice. We're going to Monaco, speak with Arsene Wenger. And I'm like, what? Literally, what? And I said, no, don't be stupid. I mean, we're going to Paris. He said, no. He said, they're dilly-dallying. He said, let's go and talk. He said, you haven't got to commit. So I went, there was a feeling inside me. I just went, okay, let's do it. Yeah, come on then, let's do it.
But before jumping on the plane, you said to your agent, Arsene who?
Yeah, I did. I said, Arsene, who's the man? He said, Arsene Wenger. I was like, Arsene who?
So that quote on the paper is coming from you
Probably
later on, huh?
is, yes. But it was, and he said, he's a new manager, a young manager. He said, Mark Hatley's just gone. He said, so I thought, okay, well, there's a Brit there. There's an Englishman. I know Mark. I playing in the England team with him.
Yeah.
So I thought, yes, come on in. Let's go and meet him. Where Gerard Houllier, I really got on well with Gerard and a lot of respect. I wasn't quite happy with the president. And the Paris seemed a little bit, and they couldn't make this deal happen quickly. I go to Monaco. I spent the first 10 minutes with Arsene. I met Arsene. My gut feeling I knew. We hadn't spoken money or anything.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to play for him. I just knew. You go by your gut instinct. And he was talking how I would play number 10 behind Mark. And I'm like, oh, this is music to my ears. Number 10. What, we play you play there. He said, and we have 2 players behind. Good players, but they will do the work. And they'll give you the ball, and you might be man. And we're talking football straight away. He had a plan in his head. He knew how the team was going to play with the individuals already in 10 minutes. And I'm going, yeah, I want to play for this guy, And obviously Mark was there as well. So I ended up going to Monaco. Yeah, it was a difficult phone call to Gerard.
Yeah.
Yeah, my agent said, no, I'll deal. I said, no, I will call him.
Call him
I
myself.
had to call him, yeah, because I had a lot of respect for Gerard. And I didn't realise that Arsene and Gerard knew each other very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, Not sure how Arsene's going to deal with that one, but we just, football's football, I suppose. Business is business. But yes, I end up going to Monaco, and I loved every minute of it. It was a great decision.
So what are the biggest discovery when you switch from roast beef to froggies?
Oh, the froggies. Well, talking of food, one of the things was incredible. The way that Arsene, I don't know whether it was every club. Maybe it was, I don't know. Was way ahead of what we were doing at Tottenham or in England, all the clubs, because it was about nutrition. It was about the fuel that you put in your body. It was about stretching. It was about massage. Now, these things in England, we didn't do them. We nothing. It was like the thought of going in to the physio in Tottenham and asking for a massage. Oh, my word. You would have been scorned. You would have been booted out.
Really?
Go away, massage? But it was compulsory at Monaco. The food that we ate and the way that we trained and the stretching and our first training session at La Turbie up in the mountains, beautiful spot to train, and the views, it was like, wow, this is, pinch yourself, this is luck. Yes. Am I really here? We have a 3-hour session, really tough session, because Arsene could train. He put you through, as you would know. Me and Mark are walking off absolutely shattered, and we go to the dressing room, and as we're walking, boys, we warm down. And I looked at Mark and said, what's a warm down? I've never had a warm down in my life.
Only warm-ups.
Yeah. And we spent 45 minutes stretching on the ballet bar. There's 2 bars out on the side of the pitch, one just off each other. Put your toe in there.
Yes.
And you're doing all these stretches and do it. Me and Mark were falling over where the boys are taking them, he's laughing their heads off. We couldn't do it. But 45.
As stiff as a...
So stiff, no chance. Eventually, you could see, wow, how we got flexible. And I was nearly 28 then. So I was fitter when I was at Monaco than I was 21 at Tottenham.
Wow.
Absolutely. The water that I drank, the food that I had, the stretching, the massage. It was incredible. The energy. I gave up meat then. Arsene didn't say anything about, but I gave up meat because meat, the digesting, the energy that it took out of a sportsman. I read, and it was like, and then I was reading some other stuff, philosophy, spiritual stuff that from the Far East that was saying that the animal shouldn't be eaten. So I think in life, when 2 things come like that, the synergy of 2 things sometimes is something's telling you something. So I gave up meat and felt so much better. I mean, I was so much fitter, no lactic acid, nothing, with the stretching and all the work that we did. And then he puts me in the weights machine, and I'm like, I'm 28 years of age. I've never done weights in my life in England. We never did weights.
Right. But it wasn't heavy. It was...
Not heavy, but it was, your muscle. And he explained things like, you might not think so, but at 28, your muscles will start, your wastage will happen. And I'm like, what? You're talking as if I'm an old man, And he went, no. And actually, if I was honest, there was times when I used to shoot and hit cross, and I used to think, something's wrong. What's wrong with me?
I'm losing a bit of power.
I'm losing the power, yeah. And I did the weights on my thighs and my hamstrings, and it came back. The power came back, and it was just all this totally different and I loved it because that's what I wanted. I went abroad to go and play and be successful, hopefully, and play in a technical team and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But to have all this as well, and we ended up winning the league the first year with him as well. It was his first big club, really.
Yeah.
And then, he brought Battiston, which was a good player, and Mark was there, and he brought 5 new players in, including 4, including myself. And Amos was there, who was a fantastic left-back.
He was close to get the Ballon d'Or. I mean, he was nominated.
Right-footed left-back, but he was a super player. Battiston, we know Battiston. Patrick was a character. I love playing with Patrick. So we had a really good team, and George Weah.
George Weah.
Oh, la. What a talent. Natural talent.
Tell us about that first training session.
Wow.
When he's coming with his boots in his...
He comes... So we go to La Turbie. I think it was in winter because it was a bit misty. It was one of them days, And there's a guy standing outside the door as we go in, and he's in a robe, and he's got sandals on, and he's got a brown paper bag under his arm. So me and Mark sort of politely say, bonjour, shake hands. We go in, and we go, don't know who that was, whatever. Anyway, 5 minutes later, Arsene brings George in and says, this is George from Liberia, speaks English. He said, you get changed next to you, you welcome him. Okay, George, how are you? Yeah, love. So he gets the brown paper bag out, and there are his boots. He's come on trial.
On trial?
He's on 6-week trial, and we're like, wow. And he gets the boots out, and they're the oldest boot. They've got holes in, and we're like, wow, And we're going straight away. I remember saying to him, we'll get you a pair of boots. I'll get you, little Louis, the kit man, I'll get you some boots. Don't worry, but he played in them. So we go out, and I'm thinking, we'll play 11v11, first team versus second team. He's playing in the second team. I'm really interested to see what he's like, because he had a beautiful frame. Anyway, he can't get a touch of the ball. We're overplaying them, and
he's playing with the reserves.
He's playing with the reserves up front, and I'm thinking he ain't had a touch. Bless him, he can't get the ball. Suddenly, he drifts out to the right hand side, and he gets it wide, and Amoros comes up against him, and he throws the dummy that we all knew in the end. If you think of George, that dummy when he cut in from the right, and he goes to and he comes inside, chop it back inside. We hadn't seen that before, but so he left Amoros on his backside. He just went, chopped him, and he went up to Battiston, dropped his shoulder on Battiston, beat another guy, and then he hits the crossbar with a shot. And Jean-Luc Etry, international goalkeeper, nowhere near it, hits the bar and comes out. And the whole match sort of, and Arsene, everyone just sort of went, oh, wow. It was that wow moment, And I remember saying to Mark Haley, oi, you better get your finger out. He looks like he's a player. Couldn't get the ball for 10 minutes again. Then he got on it. When he got on it, he just did something brilliant. And the rest is history. So there's this guy with his brown paper bag with his old football boots, ends up World Footballer of the Year when he goes to Milan.
Yeah.
I mean, this is football. This is football. This is what football can do for you.
Amazing story.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Lovely.
Amazing.
And what a lovely guy.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely guy.
So you've talked about the French culture, the way you discovered the professionalism of French system, especially under Arsene. You gave up meat. I believe you discovered rosé.
Yeah, nice rosé over there in Monaco. But that was a part of there was so things that opened my eyes, There was I had a silly thing, well, not silly things, big things. I go across, I had 2 injuries the pre-season, and suddenly I had an Achilles operation on my Achilles, on my left Achilles. So suddenly I'm in training, and oh my word, you would experience this as well. We trained hard in pre-season. Wow, it's the toughest pre-season I've ever had.
Yeah.
3 sessions a day.
3 sessions a day.
5 o'clock up,
that's
running in the woods.
That's Arsene's German side.
Yeah, that's exactly. He was born in Strasbourg, wasn't he? Yeah, yeah, exactly. My word, we trained hard, but my other Achilles on the other side started to get really sore. Cut a long story short, in the end, I had to say to the physio, look, and I'm thinking, oh no, I had to have that operation. I played for 2 years with it because it was thick. It wasn't like boom. It's a horrible feeling. It's like a bit of wood down the back of your leg. And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to have the same problem here. Anyway, I said to the physio, the first thing he says, the doctor comes and he takes blood off me. And I go, what are you doing? It's my Achilles, He said, no, we're going to check your blood levels. He said, what is there something you've been doing that you don't do back in England? And I said, well, actually, I was eating, when I first went to Monaco, I was still eating meat. It was only like 3 months in. I was eating Parma ham and melon at the hotel every day, coming out of my ears. I thought, this is nice. I've never had it before. Parma ham and melon, lovely. Too much acidic.
Acid.
And he said, do you drink? I said, no, it's maybe a little bit. But I started to drink some wine. So not a lot, but, if I wasn't doing it in England. And he said, okay, he said, we take this, let's see your acidic levels. And I'm like, what are they on about? Anyway, they come back 2-3 days later with a result. And he says, come off that. Do not touch the wine. Do not touch the melon and the parmesan. Come off that, he said, and we'll see what happens. Well, 2 or 3 days, I could feel the toxins had disappeared. I thought it was swelling. It was toxins that had dropped, and the bottom of your Achilles got nowhere else to go. It sits there, disappeared. the pain, everything. And now I'm thinking, was that my problem in England? Did I need an operation? Was it the toxins, But they were so far ahead. At Tottenham, I'd have probably ended up having another operation. There was other things, my back. I had hernia, I had a pelvis problem. And Arsene sent me to Strasbourg, to where he had Dr. Zinnerman. I'll never forget it. In his lunchtime, did something to my back, which was quite amazing. I'd had this, I thought, I'm going to have an operation now on the pelvic,
The groins.
It was called, in England, it was the surgeon's name was Gilmore. It's Gilmore groin, they were called, because there were so many players.
That went to him.
I actually did go to him. I went to him when I was in Tottenham, at the back end of Tottenham, and he went, you might need that done in 6 months to a year. So I was one of the lucky ones. He didn't get his knife out. So I went, okay, and then I went to Monaco. I'm thinking, they sent me to, bang, he'd done I said, it's my stomach, yeah. He went, no, come here. He crunched me in the base of my back. Oh, my word. He said that you may be in a lot of pain in the next 2 days. If you are, that is a very good thing. And I'm like, what's this fella done for me? Anyway, I didn't feel anything. I flew back that evening. By the time I get out of the plane in Nice, I'm like, I can't move. My back's gone.
Oh.
So I said to Arsene, I phoned him that day. I said, what's this? This man's done something. I can't move. So he called him and he said, don't worry, just lay in bed for 2 days. So I lay in bed for 2 days. I was in agony. The 3rd day, I got up. Oh, nothing. I go to training and I couldn't kick a still ball.
Yeah.
If the ball was rolling, it was all right, not too bad. But to kick, and I was taking corners and free kicks and that. Every time I was like, and I knew I'd just got this ball and I'd put it down and I smashed it into the net and it was complete pelvis and stomach was clear. And it was like it was amazing. There's 2 examples where they were so far more advanced and that's really what I wanted. I loved that. I loved the fact that it was just not the football side. There was loads, which eventually when I go into management, it was an eye-opener. It was an experience again that I took these things. Some of it, I got a lot of stick when I went into management with some. I went to Swindon and straight away I got 2 masseurs in. And the boys are going, what's going on? The lads, English lads, well, no, you got to have a massage before. They loved it in the end, but they thought...
To change the mentality at the beginning.
They thought he's crazy. And then there was a player called Mickey Hazard who was 32, and I said, Mickey, I bet you can't shoot anymore. Your power's gone. And he looked at me, he went, he said, my crossfield and my shooting, I can't shoot like I used to. But I said, you need to go on the weights, come on. And I took him in the gym and I did what they did to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you've got to build you've had muscle wastage. And Mickey come back about 2 weeks later and he went, the power's there again. Yeah, I said, I can see it. So all these things that I'd learned there, I took back into my management, which was great, the stretching, everything.
The nutrition, yeah.
Yeah, nutrition as much as you could. That was a little bit more difficult.
We've talked a lot about England. Any regrets as a not player but manager, maybe?
It's such a question that been asked before. It's easy to look back and say, well, you regret this because it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's easy. Life isn't like that. Because if life was different, you wouldn't do it in the first place, would you? You'd have a crystal ball and say, I'm not going to do that. And that's the beauty of life. I've learned a lot since what happened to me 5 years ago. At this moment in time, we cannot do anything about yesterday. But what we did yesterday is a part of us. And we can't do much about tomorrow until tomorrow. It's living in the now that's so important. And it's what we do and how we experience things now. Every day, for me, is the experience, not the end product. It's the experience of it that we take on. I do believe there's a life after, and I think that's how we live. That's us, our true being. Regrets, it's so easy to go, oh yeah, I regret that and I regret that. But there was always valid reasons why you might have made a decision in life, let alone as a footballer or a manager. But that's the life, that's the decisions you chose, and you live or die by your experiences on the back of those decisions. So I know I'm not somebody that could say I regret that, because sometimes not everyone can win. Sometimes only one team or one person can win. So you're not always going to experience it, but you might be successful. Medals and championships are not the only way you judge whether you're successful. You might have won things, but were you successful? Did you tread on everyone's toes to get there? I don't think that's the way I want to work. I'm not judging anyone else, but that's not me. So it's the experience, it's the challenge of how you do it. How you do it is more important than what you achieve. Yes, of course, as a sportsman, you want to be a winner, and that's born inside of you a little bit. But if you don't win, so be it. There's a learning lesson. There's lessons. I believe we're here for lessons, spiritual lessons, deeper. You're not going to learn much if you just keep winning, and everything is hunky-dory and everything's correct in your life. You have to have then the downside to learn how good winning is, or how good having a beautiful family is. Because there was times when what happened to me 5 years ago, I was gone. So I always have believed for a long time in that we're here for bigger things and the life after. But even now, even more so now, I was gone. And if it wasn't for the people that did, Simon Daniels was his name, that did the CPR, I was dead. And I was gone for 8 or 9 minutes. So, but now everything is, the experience is more important. The how you do things is more important than what we achieve. And I feel good with that. So the regrets, no, I'm not going to say regrets. It's interesting. Maybe years ago I might have said, and there's probably things that could have worked out better, but if I knew it, I wouldn't have done them in the first place. So, I can't really say there's anything regretful.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, because I believe if you think you could have done this and that better, then you live in the past.
Yeah.
And everything happens for a reason. And you learn from these experiences.
Absolutely, 100%.
Whether they're good or bad.
That's one thing, as a coach and as a player, I look back. This isn't a regret, but this is something, maybe if someone's listening out there as a player or a coach, as human beings, why do we always analyse and focus on the negative thing that happens, whether it's a performance in a football match or whether it's an illness? We don't analyse all the good things that we've done.
Yeah.
When you're in a team, you play bad and you lose. On a Monday, you analyse the game. You play unbelievably great, 5-0, you beat a team. The manager doesn't come in and go, right, let's really look at this. When you lose, you magnify it. When you win, move on to the next one. And that's what we're like in life. There's so many things that we don't spend our energy looking at the positive things, looking at the good things in life, to then make you even better, or a person even better, or whatever it may be. It's always human beings that we always look to go analyse the negatives. Yes, analyse them by all accounts, but balance them off with positive, the things you're doing good. Because if not, you won't retain that.
I think English people have a better view on the positive than, let's say, the French, for example.
Really?
But that's another conversation.
Yeah. That's interesting, because as an Englishman, I'd say
the opposite.
We veer that way to the negative too much. Yeah, but I don't think it's just France, England. I think it's a human being there. I think it's a human nature that everyone, the Germans would be doing that in the top. And we're talking about football, but I'm on about over things.
Of course, life in general.
Yeah, I think everyone sort of spends time analysing on the negative more than when it's good. When you've performed or worked good, or you're doing something good in being sport, or is it the podcast, or the day that it goes wrong will be the one that you remember and was playing in your mind for weeks, instead of like, we had 6 fantastic ones, but one, we forgot about them.
Not even the singing career you regret.
I wondered if you were ever going to get onto the singing career.
It just came out because you said no regrets. I'm like,
hey, listen, my theory is I wear the T-shirt. Been there, done it.
Fantastic.
I've always loved singing. Now, whether the music industry likes the fact that I love singing is another question. But ever since I was a kid, I love singing. And my son is a musician. He plays everything. He writes. He's a singer. So it's gone. I tell him he got it from everywhere. Everything he got from me, of course. But he's the one that is a real musician. But I just love music, Mikael. I say to people, every car I've ever owned, I've never heard the engine. As soon as I get in, it's like boom, the music is up and I'm off, and just music everywhere. Everywhere I go, music. I go back in the hotel room now. Well, music's on. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
What's next for Glenn Hoddle?
This is a good question. I've got a great new business that I've put together, a new thing. I've got my television in England, a lovely now life with my family, which is precious. Every second's precious anyway, but even more so because, you know, these are wonderful times. I've got a couple of grandchildren that I would never have seen if I'd have gone 5 years ago. So, you know, to spend my time with the grandchildren, to spend my time doing my television and football. The business that I've got is in stadiums, a new concept that I've got, which is going to take a lot of my time. And so it's exciting, you know, and if Tottenham did phone me up and said, work with the youngsters, then that would be great. That would be great. I've got a young cousin, George Hoddle, he's 18 and he plays at Cambridge United in Division 1. So he's a player. He's a very good modern day all-round midfield player. I think he'll go through. So I go and watch him. So yeah, I'm loving it. Yes, but as you said, Mikael, it's worry about tomorrow. It's all about the now.
Well, it was exceptional to spend time with you. Thank you very much, Glenn.
And thank you, Mikael.
All the best.
Honestly, your questions very good, very different, which was nice.
Thank
because
you.
We end up answering all the same boring questions over the
I
years.
know.
It was good fun. Thank you.
Thank you.